if he plays tonight against the Utah Hockey Club, the Lightning alternate captain Ryan McDonagh is set for his 1,000th career game as a pro. Does that mean he's ticketed for the Hockey Hall of Fame?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another episode of Locked On Lightning. I'm Josh Sperber, giving you all one big thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And today's show, we're going to talk about the matchup between the Lightning and the Utah Hockey Club. Second time in a week and this season that these two teams will face each other, and the last time that they will face each other this season. The Utah Hockey Club lost to Detroit in their last game, but took down the Tampa Bay Lightning in Utah on the 22nd of March last weekend. Logan Cooley, Alex Kerfoot, each with 2 goals for Utah. Braden Point got his 15th power play goal of the season. Anthony Cirelli, Jake Gensel also found the score sheet with Point scoring 2. For Braden Point, it was his first 2 goals in a few games, and it still wasn't enough for the Lightning. They lost 6-4 to the Utah Hockey Club. So now for the first time, the Utah Hockey Club will visit Tampa Bay. Second time in a week, so these teams got to still know each other pretty well. The Lightning outmatching Utah when it comes to goals for, goals against. The only thing that Utah has on the Lightning once again is the face-off percentage by about 1 percentage point. Utah has the advantage there. In the last game, Utah won 52% of the face-offs to the Lightning's 47. Lightning did get a power play goal. Utah did not. That was not the difference, though. It was just a flurry of goals from Utah, one of those games that it just seemed like everything the Lightning had, the Hockey Club had an answer for. Lightning tied it up at 2. Quickly, Alexander Kerfoot gets another one. Then the Lightning tied up at 3. Quickly, Logan Cooley gets another one. 30 seconds after the Lightning's 2-2 and 3-3 tying goals, Utah took the lead right back. And it just seems like they caught the Lightning off guard in between goals there. Like the Lightning weren't ready to get back on defense for those. And that's something that I think the Lightning are going to need to do. This is likely to be back to 12 and 6. So Lightning have gone 11-7 the last 2 games with Mitchell Chaffee scratched, though the Lightning did make a couple of moves on Wednesday. They sent Brandon Halverson back to the Syracuse Crunch with Jonas Johansson back. He'd missed a couple of games due to a family matter, and that was all that was said. But now he was back with the team on Tuesday, and now Halverson will go back to the Syracuse Crunch after it was Brendan Halverson in goal for Tampa, the first time the Lightning ever faced the Utah Hockey Club. So might be a fun trivia answer later on in life. But Halverson back with the Syracuse Crunch. In addition, Cam Atkinson was recalled from Syracuse. He's been up and down now twice for the Lightning since he was sent down essentially in place of Gage Gonzalez after the Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde trade for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Atkinson coming up could mean that Mitchell Chaffee is still not good to go. He has missed the last 2 games when the Lightning have gone 11-7. They did so against the Utah. Against the Vegas Golden Knights as well as the Pittsburgh Penguins, with Mitchell Chaffee's last game for the Tampa Bay Lightning coming in just under 7 minutes against the Utah Hockey Club. No, I don't think Chafee is injured, but I think the Lightning might getting Cam Atkinson might just as a nod, like maybe a hint that they're going to go back to the conventional 12-6 lines against the Utah Hockey Club. Nikita Kucherov has certainly been on fire for the Tampa Bay Lightning. 3 goals, 5 assists in the last 5 games for him. And Anthony Cirelli, 4 goals in the last 5 games, including 2 in the Lightning's Tuesday night victory. Cirelli's 500th game, that coming against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And looking at the standings, they still have not changed. 71 games apiece for the Leafs, Panthers, and Lightning. Leafs and Panthers deadlocked with 89 points, 43-25-3. The Lightning 87 points, 41-25-5. The Florida Panthers have a date with the Utah Hockey Club on Friday, but are off tonight. So that game in hand for Florida will be made up tomorrow, as the Lightning are off on Friday. And for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they go against the San Jose Sharks in San Jose. Next 3 games for the Leafs in California before still a couple weeks out from 2 matchups between Toronto and Florida, and Toronto and Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay on April the 9th. That is going to be a big game as well. So those are a couple matchups the Lightning do have to keep their eye on, as the Lightning on the outside looking in when it comes to the top spot of the Atlantic Division. Yes, they're down by 2 points, but Toronto and Florida play each other twice, and each have 2 more wins than Tampa this season. So the Tampa Bay Lightning certainly looking for some help there to make up ground in the Atlantic Division. And they'll need, you'd like to see San Jose come up and beat Toronto tonight. That would certainly help the Lightning. But this is, the Lightning not exactly controlling their own destiny, but the only way they can help their playoff hopes is just by continuing to win games. It's the whole team for the last couple weeks has just been talking about locking in for the postseason. 11 games left in the year. It's the home stretch. And that was really the theme ahead of Tuesday's game against Pittsburgh. Just, all right, buckle up. We've got a shot at first place. There were 2 tough losses, including that one to the Utah Hockey Club last week and the end of the road trip for Tampa Bay. That definitely motivated the guys on Tuesday, and that motivation just needs to carry in, I think, to tonight. I mean, there's no time for losing at this point. Like, it is the home stretch. By the end of this week, there will be 10 games left in the season for Tampa Bay. That is, they play 10 games in April before the playoffs, and it doesn't seem to be a matter of if the Lightning will make the playoffs. It just seems to be a matter of what seed they're going to be. There is a chance the Lightning can take the top spot in that Atlantic Division. The Capitals seem very likely to be the top overall seed in the Eastern Conference, 103 points, and they've already clinched a playoff spot. Washington and Winnipeg, the only 2 teams who have punched their tickets to the postseason. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 points out of first place. That's still a possibility, and I think these guys know that. I'm sure it was reminded to them explicitly after the last game against the Utah Hockey Club and against Vegas as well. And now it seems to be the main focus for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Anthony Cirelli commented on how the Bolts will prepare for their second game against the Utah Hockey Club after a tough loss in Utah last week.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll watch the video and stuff here. Obviously, like I said, we didn't like the way we played that game. They kind of took to us over there, so we'll be ready to go. I'm sure we'll watch the video and be ready to go.
Plain and simple, Lightning watching some film of their last performance, learning from their mistakes against Utah, and hopefully capitalizing on home ice against the Utah Hockey Club. The Lightning have been one of the best home teams over the course of the season. Only the Carolina Hurricanes, Winnipeg Jets, Dallas Stars, Vegas Golden Knights, and Los Angeles Kings have more home wins than the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning 25-8-2, still one of the best home records in the entire NHL, as they look to defend home ice at Amalie Arena 2 more times this week, but first against the Utah Hockey Club. And if Ryan McDonagh plays, which he is expected to, it will be his 1,000th game in an NHL sweater. Is his next stop the Hall of Fame? If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee. But I got tired of settling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the United States, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste-tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they will handpick the perfect match for you. I took their quick quiz, and in under a minute, they matched me with a roast that was fresh, smelled incredible, and tasted even better. My first bag was a game changer. It had such a smooth, rich flavor, and I could actually taste the difference from my usual coffee. The subscription makes it so easy. No more last-minute grocery store runs or settling for whatever is on the shelf. And if you don't love your first bag, no worries. Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order of Trade coffee at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. Ryan McDonagh, one of the Tampa Bay Lightning greats, returning to Tampa after leaving for 2 years in Nashville. Salary cap situation forced the Lightning's hand. They weren't able to re-sign him after 2022. McDonagh said that he wanted to come back to Tampa Bay, and he did as soon as he was able. 2 years later, he is back with the Lightning, one of the league leaders in plus-minus at +37. 3 goals, 22 assists, and he has unquestionably been one of the Lightning's best defenders over the course of this season. And his longer career has now reached 1,000 games. He mentioned when I spoke to him before the game against the Dallas Stars last week that it was just kind of something that he had thought about. Obviously, that was a few games ago. Now the 1,000 game mark is right upon him. And when a player reaches this kind of milestone, this kind of longevity in the NHL and has as much success as Ryan McDonagh does, there's always a question that people ask about where it will end up at the end of their career. And honestly, in my opinion, I think that Ryan McDonagh ends up in Toronto, not with the Maple Leafs, but in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So we'll take a walk down memory lane and take a look at the career of Ryan McDonagh. 15 years in the NHL, last 2 seasons with Nashville. This is his 6th year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He also played 8 years with the Rangers. Has been on the leadership team of the Rangers and the Lightning. The alternate captain for Tampa, was a captain for the Rangers for many years. Few times in the All-Star game, many times in the top 20 for the voting of the Norris Trophy, including 2 different trips to the top 8, once with the New York Rangers in 2013 to 2014 when they reached the Stanley Cup, and again with the Tampa Bay Lightning in 18 and 19, playing all 82 games of the season. I certainly think he'll be in Norris contention this year for his defensive ability. And McDonough is also one of the league leaders in shot blocks, not just this season, but over the course of his NHL career. Among active defensemen, McDonough is 5th in shot blocks. Among all-time defensemen, he is 10th, 4 blocks away from tying Brent Seabrook of the Chicago Blackhawks for 9th, 5 from tying Andy Green in 8th, and 6 away from becoming just the 8th player in NHL history to block 2,000 shots or more. And there are some big names on that list. Mark-Edward Vlasic for the Sharks, the leader in shot blocks all time, set that record earlier this year. Mark Giordano in second. Alex Pietrangelo, John Carlson, Ryan Suter, and Duncan Keith are some of the other notable names ahead of Ryan McDonagh when it comes to shot blocks since 2005, 2006 season when these were counted. But, I mean, that's just the kind of guy McDonough is. He is always the kind of player who will jump in front of a loose puck, do whatever it takes for the Lightning to get the defensive edge, or, the Rangers, whatever team that he was playing on. And that is just the player he is. He's really the ultimate team guy. I mean, even in post-game interviews, during the press conference, even during the interviews when we talked about him supporting Hockey Fights Cancer, the Body Check Cup, with all the amazing things that he does off the ice, he just seems to put his teammates before himself. He seems to put other players, other people before himself. And he is not just, I think, one of the great defenders in hockey right now, but one of the great people in the game as well. And he has scored 3 goals. 2 of them have been game-winning goals for Ryan McDonagh. Leads the team with 135 shot blocks on the season and is second to only Victor Hedman in terms of average ice time per game on the Lightning. He has a plus-minus of +37, which is among the league leaders as well. And he is just really a difficult player to score against. Plain and simple. I mean, you look at all skaters, only Alexei Protas of the Capitals has a better plus-minus than McDonough. So McDonough leads all defensemen in that statistic. And that just shows that teams do not score that much when Ryan McDonough is on the ice. And I think especially for a more defensive-minded defenseman like Ryan McDonough, I think it's harder to really see how great that they really are in some way. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the parts of his game that make him so great on defense are just little things that don't always show up in the stat sheet. Just the fact that, you always see McDonough at full go. You don't really see the guy tired. And his leadership is a huge part of it as well. I mean, you can just tell the influence that he has around the locker room. Honestly, even with the letter A on his shirt, I think is enough of an example, because you look at the history of Lightning captains and alternate captains, the majority of those players are homegrown guys. Guys like Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, Nikita Kucherov, that have been with the Lightning for so long and for the most part haven't played on other teams. And McDonough, yes, he was a key part of the Tampa Bay Lightning's 2 Stanley Cup wins, but not being a homegrown player and still being named an alternate captain is just a testament not just to the leadership ability of McDonough, but to the respect that people around the league, his teammates, everyone seems to have for him. And I think he has truly been one of the best defensemen, especially on the defensive side of the puck. And he contributes enough on offense to be a factor there. One of the most efficient defensemen, and I think one of the best all-around defensemen that has played on the Tampa Bay Lightning in their history. So he's got my vote. I think Ryan McDonagh at the end of his career might not be on the first ballot, but I definitely think that but at some point, Ryan McDonagh will hang up his skates. Certainly want to see a couple more seasons of Mack Truck on the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I think it ultimately ends up with Ryan McDonagh in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. And his defensive partner, Erik Cernak, left Tuesday's game against the Penguins early with an apparent injury. Now, much has been said about Chernak's status. He did not return to the game. But that means his status is up in the air for tonight's game against Utah. And we will explore some of the Lightning's options when we return. You just realized that your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, that's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot where you need the right hire like yesterday. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOn right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Lightning. Terms and conditions apply, but if you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Tampa Bay Lightning are hoping to be at full strength for the game against the Utah Hockey Club tonight, but they might need to do it without Erik Cernak. He has been the loyal line mate of Ryan McDonagh for the entire season, one of 12 Lightning players with 20 points or more on the season. Now, that does include Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. The majority of their points came with the Seattle Kraken, but Cernak with a plus-minus of plus 25, second among Lightning defensemen to Ryan McDonagh, third among all Lightning players with his efficiency, and another great defensive defenseman. Mitchell Chaffee has missed the last couple of games. No sign of an injury with him. He last played against the Utah Hockey Club, though he did play the fewest minutes of any Lightning player. Cam Atkinson, as I mentioned earlier, was recalled from the Syracuse Crunch as part of the move that had Brandon Halverson sent back down to Syracuse, and that likely indicates that the Lightning will be going with 12 forwards and 6 defenders. It does not provide any more insight to see if Erik Cernak will be back for the Lightning's game against Utah. Cernak, as I mentioned, was an early exit from the Lightning's game against the Penguins, played just 4 minutes and 20 seconds in the win, though he did end up with an assist and 2 block shots as well as 2 hits in 6 shifts with Tampa Bay in the 6-1 win against Pittsburgh. I was honestly a little bit surprised to see that it was Cam Atkinson coming up from Syracuse rather than another defenseman, because I think that it is always a good time to keep trying some of these other defensemen and see if there's anyone that might be able to stick as an extra guy for the playoff roster. But it does kind of make sense that they call up Cam just for that veteran leadership. And the Lightning do have 6 defensemen up without Eric Chernak. I'd expect the lines to look something like this. My guess would be it is, of course, Hedman and Moser on the top line. Then Darren Radish maybe to move up to line 2, partner with Ryan McDonagh. His flexibility, his ability to play on both left and right side of the defense is certainly a big help for the Lightning. And then that third line will stay Emil Lilleberg and Nick Perbix. So, I mean, the more honestly I think about the Cam Atkinson move, though, as though initially I kind of figured that they would bring up a defenseman, but it certainly doesn't tip their hand against Utah in any big way. It just might mean that Mitchell Chaffee may not go again, or that Atkinson is just going to be there for a little bit of backup. I think Chaffee is a presence that I think the Lightning miss at forward. I mean, I just like his physicality and the way he plays defense. Chaffee never shies away from going after somebody and getting a big hit on the defensive side, and can still contribute very well on offense. I mean, he was a pretty overlooked addition to the Lightning roster, and he has 12 goals and 5 assists over the course of this season. Also being one of the Lightning leaders in hits among forwards. So I think that if he can play, I think that would be the 12th man, the extra guy to come in on the right wing on that fourth line, another guy who can play on both sides of the puck. But as good as it would be to have that extra defenseman, if Chernak is unable to go, I think adding a guy like Cam Atkinson, just a veteran who's been around the league for a long time, might not have as much playoff experience as some of his other Lightning teammates do, but he has been if you can have a guy who can play useful minutes that can also provide, kind of a veteran stabilizing presence like Cam Atkinson does, and he's certainly beloved in the Tampa Bay locker room for sure. That's always a big help as well. He might not play, but just having him on the bench, having him in the locker room is, I think, a benefit. And though his games have been few and far between in 2025 for Tampa Bay, in his last 5 games with Tampa, he has a goal and 2 assists. He had a marker against Philly, assists in back-to-back games in Montreal and against Seattle, though those games came on each side of the Four Nations break. So I do like the move. And again, initially it kind of threw me. I kind of expected that if the Lightning were going to bring anybody up while sending Halverson down, they'd bring up another defenseman. But it could mean that Mitchell Chaffee might be injured or just out of the rotation for right now. But what I really think that move is, obviously the Halverson move was expected. Jonas Johansson back on the ice with Tampa. He is Vasilevsky's backup goalie. I think, again, the game against the last Utah Hockey Club might have been the nail in Halverson. It could have been the nail in Halverson's coffin, but I think regardless, it was a long shot for him to be replacing Jonas Johansson as the Lightning backup anyway. I'd initially expect another defenseman to come up, but adding Atkinson, I think, is a smart move. I think that's maybe the best thing the Lightning could have done with the pieces that they have right now, just to bring up a veteran presence. You don't want to shake things up too much because for the most part, the Lightning have played well over the last few games. 5-4-1 are the Tampa Bay Lightning in their last 10, with most of those losses coming on the road. At home, the Lightning have been virtually unstoppable this season, and just getting another vet in the locker room, getting another leader in the locker room, I think is the perfect move the Lightning could have made. Which, I mean, it's not even like, a huge headline of a move anyway, but it could tip the hand that the Lightning might not have Erik Cernak available tonight. They might go, or they might go back to their 6 defensemen, and Cernak hopefully is going to be available to skate. The Lightning have been playing banged up for most of the season, but we certainly hope to see Cernak tonight against the Utah Hockey Club. We'll have the full breakdown of the game on tomorrow's show. Until then, I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe wherever you do listen to your podcasts or wherever you did listen to today's episode. Thank you again for doing that, and go Bolts. Have a great Thursday, everybody.